Hey all, so for this week, for my final presentation, the woman I've chosen is Cleopatra. And originally I was going to write a story and I was going to talk about the idiosyncrasies that would encompass Cleopatra when she would be going to a meeting with these other men. I've written a lot of stories and I don't think I can do her quite the justice that she deserves. So instead, since one of the things that I really enjoyed about this class was the video documentaries that we did, I'm going to go ahead and choose that frame of work and present and kind of discuss over this video kind of this meeting that Cleopatra would have had. So Cleopatra, if you didn't know, was the ruler of Egypt for quite some time. And one of the meetings that she has actually had was a meeting with Mark Antony. He was ultimately her lover at one point, and she had actually chosen him to kind of be the father of her children because she actually didn't have any heirs, and that's kind of one of the problems that she faced is she's running this dynasty, but she has no one to follow up for her afterwards. And so he is an important man, not only for her in running her country, Egypt, but as far as continuing that legacy. And so one of the meetings that I would have portrayed in this book is we don't have a lot of information. Unfortunately, there weren't a lot of books written about her, and so this is kind of where I would have had to fictionalize it. However, what I do imagine would have happened is Cleopatra would have approached this meeting with Mark Antony with all the information and all the knowledge she would have needed to be successful. One of my sources calls Cleopatra a skilled naval commander, a published medical authority, and an expert royal administrator. And so clearly Cleopatra has these skills. I mean, recall that this is back when we don't have the internet and there's not widespread information, and yet she's skilled in these three separate areas. Also, she's running a country. So I think it takes a fairly incredible human being to do all these things. And so I think Cleopatra was underrated and underappreciated in her intelligence that she brought. And so I think she absolutely would use that as one of her pivotal skills when she approached this meeting. And by that, I mean, again, she's going to have all these preconceived notions that men have towards women, specifically women in power. And she's going to come prepared. She's not going to be flustered when someone calls her a seductress, a very common viewpoint faced towards Cleopatra because she would go to Rome to Mark Antony and Caesar and try to get an heir. And she's going to just kind of sweep that under the rug. She's not going to let that affect her. And she's going to have a plan of attack. And I think a huge plan of attack, something that part of the fictionalization that I would have liked to have covered in my story, would have been the fact that she would have used her knowledge to bring to the table what it is, the benefits that she can have if she kind of partners with Rome and the benefits that Rome would have. I don't think she would downplay their failures or anything like that. I think she'd be very straightforward, and I think she'd absolutely be successful. To elaborate on the type of success I think she would have, and the highlights she would make is that, taking over the world conquest isn't a very reasonable thing. The world's just too big. There's not enough people in a small country like Rome for that to happen. And I say that because Rome at the time was expanding. Egypt was trying to expand as well, but Rome just was much more aggressive. They were much more forward, and they did it on a bigger scale than Egypt did. And so Cleopatra obviously knows that. And so when she comes to the table and she's speaking to Mark Antony, she is going to say essentially, hey, I know you're doing this. You don't have to invade us. We can just be your partner. We can be your ally. It's less resources. We can help you. You can help us. And I think she would highlight the fact that when you combine two separate civilizations, you get the knowledge, you get the resources, and you just get everything from one country, and you get to apply it to another, right? And so there's this joint action of resources and intelligence and everything like that. And I think she would also highlight the fact that she's a female, and I think that's important because, at the table of people who are in charge of Rome, you have Caesar, you have Mark Antony, other important military people. Cleopatra would absolutely settle for nothing less than being an equal at that table, and I think she absolutely would be able to sell herself because while you have to when you're combining and you're trying to expand, you need to take all this resource and combine it. Resources and intelligence itself are really important. But then also, if you just have a table full of a room full of men in one room, you're kind of narrowing yourself, limiting yourself to the perspectives brought to the table from men. Whereas Cleopatra, obviously a woman, would be able to sit as an equal at that table, bring her perspective as a woman. And so you allow yourself to expand as far as how you approach situations. She's going to understand women on a deeper level than these men are. And that's a valuable resource of itself because obviously the world is half men, half women approximately, right? So there are small things like that, small idiosyncrasies that I would attribute strictly to Cleopatra that she would highlight and that she would use, and it speaks to me kind of as like an early feminist. I don't think she would have labeled herself as a feminist. None of my resources stated that, and maybe it is out there. I wasn't able to find it. But she absolutely went, I think she did a lot of work towards educating people as far as fighting the oppression that women face, which is part of what feminism is. Bell Hooks talks about it in her book, and I think she absolutely did a lot of early work similar to that. And so I really, really think she's an incredibly powerful woman, very intelligent in what she did. And another thing to just kind of speak to her intelligence, like I said, a lot of people felt that she was a seductress. And Mark Antony was a leader very high up in the Roman military. And the Roman soldiers basically followed his viewpoint. If he viewed something in one way, they kind of just followed it. He was kind of their leader. And so I think it was no accident that she went after him rather than just a random Roman soldier. He's obviously high up, so he has influence. But then also, if he's able to warp or mold the minds of Roman soldiers and see that Cleopatra is absolutely powerful, pivotal, and necessary to their operation, that's just more backers for Cleopatra, and it helps both sides, I would think. So I don't think that that's, again, we don't know what happened in that meeting. I think this is what I would have fictionalized. And so another thing I really liked, one of my resources talked about how Cleopatra was underappreciated because she was stuck in a male-dominated, I'm going to butcher this word, historiography, in ancient times and in modern times. And so it's just so baffling to me that, obviously there's a lot of these male rulers, and yet she stuck out. She was running her own country. She was doing the same thing these other men were. And I'm still talking about her over, 2,050 years later. And so I think that speaks volumes about how successful she was, the fact that I'm speaking about her today. And so it's really, I think it underplays just how successful her intelligence was. That's kind of the key factor I picked up on from all my resources. And another one of my resources, or sources rather, also talked about how they also felt that Cleopatra would not have been successful with her reign over Egypt if she did not have the backing of Rome. And so if scholars are able to analyze the situation and do that, it ultimately means she made the right choice. And so I love the fact that she's doing this. She's using her intelligence, she's using her knowledge to make the right choices. And that's just fantastic to me. And so otherwise, this overall has been a fantastic course. If you recall, at the beginning of the year, I didn't know much about feminism, and again, this was kind of just an introductory course for me. I still don't claim to be an expert, but I do love how much I've learned about what feminism is, the other roles women have played throughout history to combat the negative viewpoint on women. And so I look forward to seeing what other projects you guys have presented. I've enjoyed the fantastic conversations. They've all just been really just helped me approach life with a more open viewpoint. So I've learned a lot, and I really guess that's all you can ask for in a college course. And yeah, so thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I look forward to seeing your guys' projects, as I said, and thanks so much for being a part of a great class, and I wish you all the best. Cheers.